you said you wanted to talk to the Israeli privately, but Netanyahu himself said that we have destroyed 70 to 80% of the Syrian army assets. So that will set the military capabilities of the new government to decades to come. So how are they supposed to defend themselves if they have a chance to become a sovereign, stable region power in the region?
First of all, my position on this has not changed from 30 seconds ago when Saeed asked the underlying question. Nadia, let me just finish. Nadia, please let me finish before I swear to you I will not interrupt the question if you pay me the same respect to not interrupt my answer. So I'm just not going to speak to an operation that we haven't had the ability to have an in-depth discussion with them about yet. I think that's appropriate. We want to learn more about what they were trying to do. We want to learn more about the facts, and then we'll certainly have more to say about it. Look, when it comes to the provision of weapons inside Syria, I don't think that one of the challenges facing people inside Syria right now is a shortage of weapons inside Syria. If you look at what the civil war of the last 13 years now, if anything, there has been a surplus of weapons and munition on the ground in Syria. But that said, to respond to your question, I think it's appropriate that we take our time and assess this and have more before we have more to say.
Okay. In the statement that the Secretary released this morning, it says that they're calling on the transitional government to secure both chemical and biological weapons. So how are these people, who are they he's calling on? How are these people who haven't even formed a government, how are they going to are they supposed to secure these weapons? And second, would you entertain that in this case, like a UN team mandated by the Security Council will go to Syria and secure these weapons?
So a few things about that. Number one, it is the responsibility of those who are taking the reins of power inside Syria, first and foremost, to secure and destroy any chemical weapons that they find in areas that they control. That's the first answer to the question. And obviously, you have seen HTSC's territory, and it certainly is quite possible that in the territory they've seized, there are chemical weapon stocks. They may not have full inventory of those yet, of course. They've only been in control of Damascus for a couple of days. But that is the first answer to the question. The second answer to it, though, is that there is an emergency session of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons Executive Council that has been called, that will meet this Thursday to address the recent developments on the ground and the current situation on the ground in Syria. And when it comes to this question of inspections and verifications, it is the responsibility of that organization to conduct verification efforts under its mandate. Not any of the member states, not the United States or other states, but the OPCW. So we will await the outcome of that meeting on Thursday to define a path forward. We, of course, have full confidence in the OPCW and its ability to carry out its mission.
Okay, going to the Golan Heights, I'm sure you've seen Netanyahu's statement yesterday. He said the Golan Heights is going to be part of Israel now and forever. Considering that this administration, when there was an attack on Majd al-Shams, I believe like 5 months ago, you called it Northern Israel. So you're really legitimizing, give legitimacy to the Israeli control over it. So how can we believe that this administration, or any administration, we're not going to let Netanyahu go against international law, which we know that's been illegally occupied since 1967?
So I would just say, with respect to the Golan Heights, of course, the United States recognized several years ago control over the Golan Heights. That's just as a factual matter. Now, when it comes to other disputed areas, we have long made clear that we want to see a two-state solution. When you talk to areas that have been under Israeli control since 1967, we want to see the establishment of an independent Palestinian state, and you have seen us take a number of steps to try to advance that possibility, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, just one thing I want to clarify, just to make sure I heard you correctly. You said that legally the United States can talk to any terrorist group if they want to, if that advances the interests of the U.S., right?
Correct. Just as a legal matter, strictly legal matter. That's different than a policy matter, of course,
sure.
a policy
so
choice.
What stopped you from talking to Hamas directly, since you designated them as a terrorist group, you have a great interest in releasing American hostages instead of going to mediators?
Because we have effective mediators who have much better relationships with Hamas than we do, for obvious reasons, and have the ability to effectively communicate with them. There was never any need for us to have those direct conversations when you have effective mediators like the governments of Qatar and the governments of Egypt.